Hello viewers, welcome to this lesson on ADR or Alternative Dispute Redressal Mechanisms. In this lesson, we will discuss about the ADR systems in India, modes and methods. As we have noted in the earlier lessons on legal aid, the need for a new justice dispensation system has been felt in order for access to justice to be available to all. The present justice dispensation system is based on formal procedures, formal institutions like courts and the need for legal representation by lawyers. In order for this system to be more accessible, the need for legal aid has also been felt. However, legal aid has not been confined merely to legal assistance, but has led to demands for different justice dispensation systems. ADR or alternate dispute resolution systems are a response to this demand. ADR include many forms of dispute resolution including conciliation, negotiation, mediation and arbitration. The focus of these dispute resolution systems is on less complicated, faster resolution and most importantly, a system in which the litigants have control over decision making. These systems are voluntary and are based on the willingness of parties to amicably resolve their disputes. The objectives of this lesson are to learn about ADR or alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, to understand the origins and growth of ADR mechanisms, to appreciate the role played by the judiciary in promoting ADR mechanisms. Access to justice is one of the most important foundations for a just society. The importance of justice was well recognized in ancient and modern jurisprudence. In ancient times, kings were known for their just rule and the procedures adopted to secure justice to the people. There are well-known stories regarding access to justice in terms of both Hindu and Muslim rulers in India. There is a popular story regarding the bell of justice that was hung before the palace of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. Any person seeking justice only needed to ring that bell. Such informal mechanisms to seek justice were most suited to a populace that was largely illiterate and poor. With the advent of the modern judicial system under the British, although the law became more certain and justice more impartial and less dependent on the king, it also became more remote to ordinary citizens. The modern courts took over the role of the earlier darbars of the king and were no less popular. In modern India, it is believed that of all the three institutions of state, that is legislature, executive and judiciary, the judiciary commands the maximum respect. The trust that people have in the judiciary has resulted in an unprecedented increase in litigation in the last 50 years. All other forums to resolve disputes have been abandoned in a rush to secure judgments, decrees and orders. All courts, lower and high courts, have seen an increase in pendency of cases. According to the report of the E-Committee of the Supreme Court in 2016, there are about 218 crore cases pending in the district courts across the country and more than 60,000 cases pending in the Supreme Court itself. The initial support for alternative dispute resolution came from the 129th report of the Law Commission in 1988, which suggested mediation in urban litigation as an alternative to adjudication. This report referred to the efforts made by the Law Commission in suggesting reforms to the existing judicial system, which is highly centralized, and the need for decentralizing the system of administration of justice was suggested in terms of Nyaya Panchayats and a system of participatory justice. The monolithic approach to justice administration which has been operating in this country since the advent of British rule, required to be modified as per the Law Commission report. The Commission examined several models, including a conciliation court system working in Himachal Pradesh. With a view to implement this report, the amendments to the Civil Procedure Code were made, which impose an obligation on the judge of a civil court to see that if a matter can be resolved between the parties without the need for adjudication, and only when alternative methods fail, that litigation should proceed. Since 1996, there has been a push towards ADR mechanisms. The Arbitration and Conciliation Ordinance, which later became an act, has given a big push to these mechanisms. Provisions in the Civil Procedure Code have also enabled the setting up of alternative dispute mechanisms. A brief description of the ADR procedures. Various procedures are included under the broad rubric of ADR. They need to be distinguished from each other. Arbitration. Arbitration is one of the oldest form of alternative dispute resolution from a court system. It has been in vogue since 1989. This was largely based on the English Arbitration Act. The original Civil Procedure Code (CPC) left these provisions as they were. It did not disturb them. Another act was enacted in 1940, which was then consolidated into the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. This act provides for when the arbitral proceedings commence, it provides for transparency in decision making, it provides that the arbitration tribunal must give a reasoned order. The significant aspect of an arbitration is that both parties voluntarily submit disputes to an arbitrator, and the arbitrator passes an award after hearing and discussing with both the parties. In order to give a finality to the proceedings, an arbitral award may not be challenged in a court of law, and the matter is deemed to have been settled in terms of the arbitral award. Conciliation. This is also one of the oldest mode of dispute settlement, which has found statutory recognition in legislations like the Industrial Disputes Act. Conciliation involves the participation of a third party who assists the parties to a litigation to come to a settlement. The Industrial Dispute Act provided for industrial disputes to be settled by conciliation and provides for a conciliation officer who will make efforts to resolve the dispute through a settlement. Once a settlement is reached between the parties through a conciliation officer, the settlement is binding on all the parties to the dispute, and the dispute does not survive after such a settlement. Negotiation. Disputes may also be settled through negotiations between the parties. Again, the Industrial Disputes Act is a good example of the recognition of negotiations as a method to resolve industrial disputes. Collective bargaining has been recognized as an important tool to redress industrial disputes and has been given an important place by the Indian judiciary. The courts have held that a matter that has been settled through such negotiation will be binding and will be given effect to at whatever stage it may have been entered into. Thus, a matter pending in a court of law may also be settled through a negotiation, and an award may be passed in terms of such settlement. Mediation. Mediation is a procedure more close to conciliation in which a mediator takes a central role in bringing parties to agree on a settlement. It is opined that in arbitration, the arbitrator is usually a person with knowledge of law and facts, whereas a mediation is only a facilitation and not a determination that an arbitration is. These mechanisms are important, particularly in cases where the parties are unwilling to directly deal with each other, and the mediator, who enjoys the confidence of both the parties, will be able to bring the matter to a close. Recently, the Chief Justice of India has offered to mediate between the parties on the Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi issue, which has been a long-standing dispute over the piece of land in Ayodhya. These dispute settlement mechanisms are intended to deal with the shortcomings of the formal court procedures, which are lengthy, time consuming and expensive. the 222nd report of the Law Commission in 2002 on the need for justice dispensation through alternative dispute resolution observes that the courts have become inaccessible due to various barriers such as poverty, social and political backwardness, illiteracy, ignorance, procedural formalities and the like. Examining the existing position of ADR mechanisms, the Commission observed the lacunae in the existing mechanisms. In the Lok Adalats, which have been set up under the National Legal Services Authority Act, the Commission noted that they have played an important role in providing counselling and conciliation mechanism to litigants. The Commission also makes a strong argument that ADR mechanisms need to be strengthened with the creation of more ADR centers, improving access to technology by introducing computers in courts, increasing the number of judges and other measures. Statutory measures giving effect to ADR procedures. The most important legislation that gives effect to ADR is the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. The Act was enacted in 1996 to give effect to the model law on international commercial arbitration that the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law adopted. The General Assembly of the United Nations has recommended that all countries give due consideration to the said model law of 1985. Thus, the ADR Act 1996 gives effect to both international commercial arbitration and other arbitration and conciliation mechanism. The Act defines both international commercial arbitration and arbitration. While arbitration is defined as any arbitration, whether or not administered by permanent arbitral institution, international commercial arbitration is defined as arbitration between parties where at least one of the parties is a habitual resident of another country. One of the requirements of the law is that the arbitration agreement has to be in writing. The parties to arbitration may decide on the procedure to appoint an arbitrator, and in case the parties fail to decide on the procedure, each party may appoint one arbitrator, and these arbitrators will appoint the third arbitrator who will be the presiding arbitrator. The Act also provides for conciliation, which can commence where one party invites the other to conciliate under this Act, briefly setting out the dispute between the parties. The proceedings commence when the other party accepts the invitation. Conciliation is understood as a procedure to reach an amicable settlement. Strict legal grounds are not necessary, and the settlement is marked by a mutual give and take and a compromise rather than a judgment on merits. Parties retain the freedom of acting and responding, and the conciliator does not set the terms of agreement or the protocol. The effect of a settlement reached under this Act is the same as the effect of an arbitral award. The Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Act 2015 brings certain changes in the Act and provides that where any matter that is brought before a court is a subject of an arbitration agreement, parties will be referred to arbitration even if there is a previous court judgment to the contrary. The court must refer the parties to arbitration unless it thinks that a valid arbitration agreement does not exist. The Act permits the court to set aside an arbitral award if it is in conflict with the public policy of India. This includes awards affected by fraud or corruption, those in violation of confidentiality and admissibility of evidence provisions in the Act. The bill modifies this provision to also include those awards that are in contravention with the fundamental policy of the Indian law or conflict with the notions of morality or justice in addition to the grounds already specified in the Act. Apart from the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, there are other legislations that give effect to the procedures of ADR. The Family Courts Act 1984 was enacted to provide for the establishment of a family court with a view to promote conciliation in and secure speedy settlement of disputes relating to marriage and family affairs. Section 5 of the Family Courts Act provides for the association of social welfare organizations to help a family court to arrive at a settlement. Section 5 also allows for the association with any other person whose association with the family court would enable it to exercise its jurisdiction more effectively in accordance with the purposes of this Act. Section 6 of the Act provides for appointment of permanent counsellors to effect settlement in family matters. Further, Section 9 of the Act imposes an obligation on the family court to make efforts for settlement before taking evidence in the case. To this extent, the ADR has got much better recognition in the matter of settlement of family disputes. Apart from the Family Courts Act, there are provisions for reconciliation under Section 23 of the Hindu Marriage Act, as also Section 34 of the Special Marriage Act. Section 23 of the Hindu Marriage Act states that before proceeding to grant any relief under it, there shall be a duty of the court in the first instance in every case to make every endeavour to bring about reconciliation between the parties where relief is sought on most of the fault grounds for divorce specified in Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act. Section 23 of the Hindu Marriage Act makes a provision empowering the court on the request of parties, or if the court thinks it just and proper, to adjourn the proceedings for a reasonable period not exceeding 15 days to bring about reconciliation. The Special Marriage Act, in spite of being a modern legislation regarding marriage and is not based on the idea of marriage being a sacrament, also contains a provision that is similar to Section 23 of the Hindu Marriage Act. This shows that the need for reconciliation of disputes was a long felt need in relation to laws regarding the family. In order to give effect to this duty of seeking reconciliation between parties, the court hearing the case can enforce the attendance of parties even by issuing non-bailable warrants. The parties cannot claim that the court may proceed with the dispute without the parties appearing before it. The Supreme Court in Jagraj Singh versus Bir Pal Kaur in 2007 held that a court is bound to make all efforts to secure the appearance of parties before the court in order to see that efforts at reconciliation have been made. In Baljinder Kaur versus Hardeep Singh in 1998, the Supreme Court held that it is now obligatory on the part of the family court to endeavour in the first instance to effect a reconciliation or settlement between the parties to a family dispute. Even where the family courts are not functioning, the objects and principles underlying the constitution of these courts can be kept in view by the civil courts trying matrimonial cases. The Consumer Protection Act 1986 is another legislation that provides for a speedy and simple dispute resolution for a special category of cases. This act provides a remedy for all consumers, that is, those who buy goods for consumption or hire services for a consideration. A consumer may file a consumer dispute with regard to a defect in goods or a deficiency of services. The Consumer Protection Act also deals with unfair trade practices, which include making false representation or a misleading representation regarding the quality of goods or services rendered. In an important judgment, the Supreme Court in Lucknow Development Authority versus M.K. Gupta held that the services may be provided by any person, including a state and not only a private body. In this case, the Supreme Court held that any defect or deficiency in rendering services such as housing activity carried on by the statutory authority would come within the purview of the Consumer Protection Act. Section 89 of the Code of Civil Procedure came into being on account of the enforcement of the CPC Amendment Act 1999, which came into effect in 2002. This section states that where it appears to the court that there exists elements of a settlement which may be acceptable to the parties, the court shall formulate the terms of settlement and give them to the parties with their observation, and after receiving the observation of the parties, the court may reformulate the terms of a possible settlement and refer the same to arbitration, conciliation, judicial settlement including settlement through a Lok Adalat or mediation. Where a dispute has been referred for arbitration or conciliation, the provisions of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 shall apply as if the proceedings for arbitration or conciliation were referred for settlement under the provisions of this Act. To the Lok Adalat, the court shall refer the same to the Lok Adalat in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1 of section 20 of the Legal Services Authority Act 1987, and all other provisions of that Act shall apply in respect of the dispute so referred to the Lok Adalat. For judicial settlement, the court shall refer the same to a suitable institution or person, and such institution or person shall be deemed to be a Lok Adalat, and all the provisions of the Legal Services Authority Act 1987 shall apply as if the dispute were referred to a Lok Adalat under the provisions of that Act. For mediation, the court shall effect a compromise between the parties and follow such procedure as may be prescribed. In furtherance of suggestions that ADR mechanisms be used in criminal law, plea bargaining has been introduced by the Criminal Law Amendment Act. To conclude, we have seen the need for improving access to justice has been a long felt need. The existing procedures in court based litigation have been in place for a long time and need to be revisited. The pending litigation in courts has paralyzed the judiciary, and the need to examine new forms of dispute redressal is inevitable. We have discussed the many forms that ADR resolution has taken. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. We will meet again for the next lesson. Thank you.